All right, folks, I know we're live. It's Gavin Seim here at the studio. Welcome to Liberty School, and we're going to do a little Q&A session. This is a bit of an experimental test today, and so let's throw some comments in there. First of all, let's make sure that our technical things are working out all right. So let me know if you can hear and see me in the video here. Now, I'm also working with the comment section. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be watching your comments coming in, and we're going to keep this simple. We're not going to have call-ins right now or anything like that. I've been meaning to do this. I've been meaning to say, okay, let's get some sessions going, because I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of questions, and quite frankly, I get a lot of ones that I just don't have time. I try to respond to the emails as much as I can, but the questions get long and they get complicated. So try and keep it, if you have a question, if you want to address something in particular, try and keep it simple and to the point. And let's see if we can learn something today. You can chat in the chat room. If you're seeing this on Facebook or something, just click over to the YouTube link so you can actually see the YouTube video there and type in the comments and things like that. Now, as we get going here, I'm just going to be probably a little in and out as I just try and make sure everything's working correctly and that everything's going the way it should. So yeah, there's a live chat room over there. And let's see here. Hello, everyone. Everyone sounds like everything's looking good. And we do have moderation, so the trolls can be blocked, and you will be if you're just here to stir up trouble, because we're here to learn something. We're here to share ideas, and I want to be able to address real questions for people that maybe they have some issues with. Let's get government accountable. That's really what we come down here to. We need to restore liberty. We need to get back to principle. We need to get back to the values and the liberty and the justice, because our nation is totally broken. Our system's totally corrupt. And, you know, you look at everything that's happening. I mean, I can't even keep up anymore with the stories of government abuse, especially police abuse. I mean, it's just everywhere I look, and it's really frustrating. It gets really depressing. But I think what makes me even sadder is the total disconnect with people and their liberty, the total disconnect with people and justice, and a willingness to stand, and even an understanding that they're being abused. Folks, we have a nation of slaves, okay? We have a nation of slaves, but the beauty is for the tyrants. And think about this. You know, throughout history, and you watch movies and you read books, and there's this nation of people that are being abused, and they hate their government, and they want to be out from under oppression. We have a nation where the nation in general seems to be happy with the oppression. They're a nation of slaves that runs down the road saying, yeah, freedom, we're free, not even recognizing what slaves we have become. We're a nation that rejects morality, that rejects liberty, that rejects God, that rejects principle, that hates truth. And that's really sad. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure about adding other moderators. And at this point, we're going to just kind of do a test run. I didn't do newsletter or anything on this, so I don't imagine we'll get a ton of viewers live on this, which is actually good. Those of you that are getting in here live, you'll get to ask some questions. And this is a good platform to test it in. Now, I've done live stuff on YouTube before. We're using the Hangouts on Air feature. There's also a new live feature coming to Facebook, and we may be looking at that in the near future as well, just trying different things. But what I want to do is I'm going to pull up a few various bits of information that I have here, and I'm going to start taking some questions here in just a couple of moments. So I'm going to be watching the chat room for those, and trying to take the questions in a way that is as practical as possible. Now, make sure we're coming in order on these comments. And Georgie, the mic I'm using is my blue Snowball that I use in the studio for most of my interviews and things. Hello to everyone saying hi. And Rob says he'd once talked with a friend about a documentary on the rise of the American statesman, and people like Matt Shea, like me, and like lots of others that are out there standing up for liberty. And I think any media, I talk about this a lot, any media, I know that wasn't exactly a question, but I want to address that a little bit. Any way we can control the conversation. You know, this has been my message for quite a while now. And when I ran for Congress, I controlled the conversation of the election. I still lost the election. You know, I raised $15,000 next to huge backing entrenched politicians that had hundreds and hundreds of thousands. And that's why we ended up with Dan Newhouse, which was just more of the same here in the 4th District in Washington. And yet the whole race came to the liberty side more. It came to the constitutional side more, because when I would go to the forums and the debates, we would stir up the conversation, and I would, in a sense, and I don't mean this to brag, but I would dominate the forums because I was bold and I wasn't playing politics. The same goes, I think, for putting out media and for getting out content that really articulates liberty, that articulates the principles. Here's the problem a lot of times with patriots. Number one, we don't have a lot of resources. And so for me, it's like, well, I get on my knees and I say a prayer and I do the best I can with what I have and try and get people to stand up. But we're not like the enemy that has countless millions of dollars. We're not like the government who steals all our money so they can use it against us. And so we're in a situation where we have to manage and get done, a lot done, with a very little. We do that by not playing politics, by not playing games, by being bold. And that's always been my message is don't play around. Don't play politics. And I'm speaking to the politicians. I'm speaking, you know, to everyone. Stop pretending. Stop debating whether or not our liberty is negotiable. And it's like I did on the video that I caught some flack for a while back, when a couple of weeks ago, when I came down on abortion. You can't support liberty just in one area. You can't say, well, I get liberty, but they don't. You can't say a baby doesn't get liberty, but I do. You can't say I want my guns, but I want their free speech taken away. You can't go halfway, guys. It's liberty or it's not liberty. Liberty is based on our God-given rights. It's natural law. There's a foundation. There's a moral standard there. And it doesn't mean that I force my religious beliefs on you, but it does mean that you have to equally support liberty for everybody. You don't get it halfway. And the problem is we have our politicians and our liberty groups, especially in areas, I mean, abortion's huge. We're never going to restore liberty until abortion is ended, because it's the most anti-liberty thing in history. I mean, you're killing innocent people. It is the most heinous of murder, because the person doesn't have a voice. They have no way to defend themselves. And so you can't have liberty without standing on principle. So we talk about the tyrants and we talk about standing up to police and all this stuff. And yes, that's important. We have to stand boldly, but we have to start defending our neighbor, defending the weak, the innocent, those who can't speak for themselves. You got to stand for liberty for everybody. One of the main things, one of the main principles that I use when I make stands is that, trying to collect my thoughts here. I don't get to edit this live, although I don't usually have to edit much, but I have to go on for a little longer tonight than 5 minutes. We have to set a standard that applies to us and people we don't like. So I see this a lot. I see this in terms of people say, well, yeah, I'm for liberty, I'm for a patriot. And then they look at Baltimore or they look at Ferguson, because the news media is turning both ends against the middle. They're making it about race when really it's about tyranny. And they say, well, look at these looters. Well, obviously looting is lawlessness, and that has to be dealt with. But there's lots of people there. It's funny because when Ferguson, it's not funny at all, it's sad. When Ferguson was going down, I dug behind the streams and behind the news media and found live streams on the internet of what was actually happening. And I was blown away because police were going into peaceful groups. They were throwing tear gas into them. I mean, the police were literally attempting to incite riots among peaceful people. And then people would come out and they'd say, well, they should all be arrested, all those race baiters. And it doesn't matter if you agree with somebody. You have to support their rights. Just like you have to support gun rights and the right to self-defense if you support liberty, you also have to support free speech. You have to support freedom of movement. You have to support life. And And we've been blinded. We've been blindsided. We've been deceived by a polluted education system that's run by the government. We've been fooled by a secular system that says, well, there's no God, there's no truth, there's no morality, do whatever you want. And then we say, well, gee, I wonder why things aren't working out. And so we have to have a standard. It has to be just, it has to be equal, and it has to be liberty-minded. Now, let's go back, and I'm going to start taking some comments here. And I'm just trying to find the best way to deal with the comment feed coming in and make this as fluid as possible. Okay, so trying to get the chat to work here. Okay. One of these questions I keep seeing, and I'm getting this one a lot, so let's address it, is who do you support for president? And here's the thing. Let's talk about presidents. Let's talk about the state of the nation just a little bit. You know, I see the news, and I see Donald Trump, and I love it that he's stirring up the pot, right? That he's not playing the game. He's not playing the politics, because I'm so tired of politicians. You know, when I ran for office, I ran under the heading of no more politicians by saying, we're not going to play the game. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to say it like it is. And so Trump is doing that in a way. But remember, Trump, you know, Trump has the money and the resources to get himself out there. And I don't look at Trump as necessarily a righteous or a liberty-minded person. I think that he's made some stands that are good, and he's probably playing it up because he can get a lot of attention with that. You know, and then you have Rand Paul. Well, Rand Paul has been a fighter in the Senate in many ways, and he's not been as bold as he should in other ways. The same can be said for Ted Cruz. And so we look at these candidates that we would consider a consideration. And while I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for any of these people, I'm not making a decision yet. I don't see anybody in there that can fix America. America is too far gone, you guys. Liberty's lost. America is crumbling. It's falling apart until we get back to principle and liberty. Quite frankly, I mean, from my perspective, until America repents and returns to God in some way. And I don't mean the government forcing religion on people. I mean, we have to stop being perverse. We have to stop constantly being selfish and living for ourselves. We got to start standing up for liberty. And so there's no president I see. I don't think our nation is mentally capable right now of electing a president who has the boldness and the tenacity to really jump in there and do what it takes. Because everybody's always both ends against the middle. They want liberty their way. They don't want actual liberty based on a standard of liberty, based on the standard of all men are created equal, based on the standard of life, liberty, and property, and anything that does not protect that is not law, it's lawlessness. And so everybody, even the patriots, they get distracted by the memes and the news stories and the headlines. And, you know, these people that when election season comes around and they say, oh, look what I'm going to do for you. Well, ask the question, prove it. What have you done? Have you stuck your neck out? Have you caught flack? Have you put yourself on the line? Because you see this over and over and over again. Every politician, I mean, they're just trained speakers a lot of the time. A lot of times they're not even very good at that. That was an interesting part of my campaign too when I ran all those forums, and I was afraid, like, oh man, I'm going to be dealing with high-level politicians. I might not be able to deal with this. And I was blown away by how stereotypical the talking points were, how shallow everything was. And so what I see in the race is a lot of politicians. Not that I don't have my eye on some of these guys, but we're not there yet. And the truth is, America's not going to elect a president that's going to fix America. We're going to have to fix America. We're going to have to appeal to heaven. We're going to have to get back to a foundation of liberty. The federal government is pretty much a lost cause, guys. And so I don't even want a president. I'm not going to vote for a Mitt Romney. I'm not going to vote for somebody who's a compromise. I'm done with that. Why should we give ourselves a Band-Aid? If America refuses to stand up, then it's going to crumble. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and deal with it so we can rebuild in liberty. Scotty says, stop saying liberty. Liberty has restrictions. It's freedom we seek. No, it's not. It's not freedom I seek. Not in that sense. It's liberty that I seek. Liberty is freedom plus morality. Pure freedom is I can do whatever I want. I can steal from you. I can rape your daughter. That's pure freedom. Liberty is freedom plus morality. And if you're not interested in that, if you're not interested in any kind of ethical standard, if liberty or freedom to you is I get to do whatever I want for me, you don't support human rights. You don't support justice. You don't support restoration of our nation. Freedom is not you get to do whatever you want. Freedom is, and liberty, and that's why I specifically use the word, is all men are created equal. We can worship as we please. We have free speech. We have the right to protect ourselves. And we also have a just standard for if you hurt someone else, you're accountable for that. There's order. Now I'm watching the comments coming in. I'm just going to take these as I can as they come in. And if I miss your comment, like don't go crazy with it, but if I miss your comment, I may not be able to get to every question here, but if I miss it and there's a clear specific question, then post it again a few minutes later because the feed that it's showing is not the most easy to understand the way it organizes the comments here. So somebody says freedom is to do what you want. What about abortion? Well, if freedom is to do what you want, I don't want freedom. Because if what you want to do is kill babies, that's not justice. That's not liberty. I want no part with that. You know, it's funny. It's not funny. But I noticed this. I don't debate abortion, you guys. You don't kill innocents. If somebody comes into your assembly, listen to me. If someone comes into your assembly and they say, hey, let's go and kill old people because, you know, they can't really fend for themselves all the time. And why not? Let's do that. That'd be cool, right? You would not sit there and reason with that person as if they are sane. You would say, what is wrong with you, you psychopath? Do you hate justice? Do you hate liberty? You would probably throw them out and call the police. Anyone who supports the killing of babies should not be regarded as a reasoning person of liberty. They hate liberty. You're the enemy of liberty if you support the violation of it in the strictest sense. Go ahead, unfollow me right now. I have no problem with that. If you hate liberty, you have no part with restoring it. You cannot kill the innocent for your own convenience and then say, well, that's liberty. That's not liberty. It's perversion of liberty. Life, liberty, and property, all are created equal. All men are created equal. You don't get to decide who's not a human. That's no different than when the Supreme Court, in their lawlessness, decided that blacks were only part human. Or that's no different than when we fought the Indians and we said, well, it's fine to kill Indians because they're not really human. You don't get to decide who's human. You don't get to have the right to kill somebody, period. It's not a debate. If you disagree, that's your right, but you're not a friend of liberty. You don't support liberty. Alfredo says, what's the definition of a baby? You don't get it. I don't need to define a baby, and neither does the baby. Okay? A baby becomes a baby, and the science proves this. I don't need to debate the science, but at a few weeks in, there's a heartbeat, there's organs, there's life. At the stage most huge amounts of abortions are being done, the baby feels pain, there's reaction. I mean, come on. Don't kid yourself that this butchery, this slaughter, has anything to do with liberty. A woman has no more right to kill her child than a man has to rape a woman. Both are reprehensible. You have to get back to a standard of liberty. Life begins at conception. It's a baby, you guys. It doesn't matter whether it can survive on its own. If you get in a car accident and you're having to be taken care of, they don't get to just say, well, he can't survive on his own. He must not be human anymore. Who do you think you're kidding? We have to operate in reason if we're going to have liberty. Liberty will never be restored in this nation until abortion ends, you guys. Never. It's the greatest Holocaust in human history. It's unfathomable what we've done. 55 million murders in America alone in the name of choice? Are you freaking kidding me? Don't delude yourselves with such perversion. Okay. Now, regarding the abortion. I'm not going to debate any excuses for why you should get to kill a baby, ever. You don't get to kill a baby. And people say, what about rape? What about the mother's life? What about this or that? The video I did last week, there's a link to it, to an in-depth that addresses every one of these arguments, okay? Because I wanted to be reasonable. I wanted to cover them. But I'm not going to sit here and reason. There is no way ever that you can say it's okay to kill innocents. It's not liberty in any sense at all. That's the opposition. It's the antithesis of liberty. And it has no part with it, and it never will. And so it's time to get our heads straight about that. You know, you may not be on the same page with me about my faith. You may not be a believer in Jesus. You have those choices. A choice you don't have is killing innocents. That's not a choice. It's a child. Now, let's move on from abortion and take some more questions, because I've covered this and there's no need. I mean, I can go on, I could rant, I could make this the whole show tonight. I'm not going to do that. I want to take some of your questions on practical stuff so that we can get good information out there and help liberty grow. Now, Alfredo asks, what's your thoughts on driver's licenses? I addressed this a little bit in this week's activism video, which you can see if you haven't seen on the channel, okay? So, let me just, the chat's moving pretty quick, so I'm just trying to take some of these questions, guys, so that I can, let me save them in a separate side document here, some of the ones that we can take. And there's great questions in here, so I'm just trying to get them as they're coming through fast. And the interface here on YouTube is not the best. Okay. Now, Alfredo asked about driver's licenses. Okay, let me take this one real quick. It's very simple. I get a lot of people emailing me and talking to me about, well, right to travel, driver's licenses, all this stuff. You're right. You're right. The driver's license is, in any practical sense, the idea that you have to be licensed by government to travel on a public roadway makes no sense. Now, should you be accountable if you crunch someone else's car? Absolutely. But forced insurance, driver's license, all this stuff. And people always have this argument, well, the world would be chaos if it weren't for these laws. It's total bull. These laws didn't always exist. You know, even when driver's licenses were around in the early days, you'd send like 25 cents in and they'd send you a driver's license. It was a formality. It was a Trojan horse to get more control over people. So here's the issue, though. Here's why I don't fight that one. Number one, people aren't ready for it. You got to realize we're a nation of slaves. We can't even unite on something as simple as abortion being tyranny, okay? So I don't want to give them an opportunity to arrest me every day. I can't afford it. Let me tell you something. I got arrested in January. Let me just give you the straight facts here. I got arrested. My dad got arrested. FYI, it's a pretty good bonding experience to be in jail with your dad. And there's nothing, you know, I'm not talking about being in jail because you really did something wrong. There's pride in being arrested for standing up for righteousness. That's a biblical principle. It's a liberty principle. It's a patriot principle. Okay. But it costs. And here's the thing, you know, people supported me. They called the Douglas County Courthouse once we got arrested. They shut down the switchboard. I mean, they were mad. They were mad. But Douglas County was going to make an example of me all the way through to my kangaroo trial, even though we had a great attorney, Stephen Pigeon, and you can see the closing arguments on my channel. Through all of that, they were going to make sure they won, not so they could put me away. You know, I got 14 days of home confinement, which I haven't served yet because of pending appeal, but I don't think we're going to go anywhere with the appeal. They're actually trying to cancel my appeal now, but that's a different conversation. Okay, here's the thing, though. Between, you know, the original Chastain and my trial and Dad's trial, we've already got well over $10,000. And this is, and bear in mind, I mean, our attorney's working with us. He's doing work for free as well. This is a huge burden. The court system is lost, you guys. The court system is done. You can't go into the court system and get justice, because I'm at the point now, we say, well, I lost in local court. Let's appeal. Let's appeal. I could be in a situation, once I appeal outside of the county, if I lose, the state can actually go to them, to the higher court, and say, well, we want Gavin to pay our attorney fees. And so I could take it to, let's say, the Washington Supreme Court, not even out of the state for my case. And they could end up saying, well, you owe $100,000 to the state in attorney fees. I mean, that's how corrupt and polluted it is. It's completely insane. The justice system has no part with justice. And I've covered this in a lot of other videos, so I don't need to go into it too deep. But the cost is huge. And so at this point, there's no fixing this through the courtroom door. Our Supreme Court is lawless in every sense. They're lawless in how they uphold our rights. They're lawless in thinking that they're the kings of America. They're lawless in taking religious tyranny and saying, well, we get to define marriage for the church and they have to do it our way. They're lawless in every sense. And occasionally they do a ruling that's good. But these are not moral, just, liberty-minded people. So I don't think our fight is in the courtroom. And I'm getting off topic a little bit, but not really, because we talk about the driver's license. If you're running around, and I get emails from people and they say, well, I don't use a driver's license. I haven't in years. If you're not getting arrested for not having a driver's license and registration, all that kind of stuff, well, you do have a real argument there. If you're not getting arrested, it's because they don't really want you. Because people send me messages and they say, well, you got to do this, or you got to not operate under the flag of admiralty law, or you got to not give the courts relevance, or you got to not stand, or this or that. All these things. Magic words aren't going to fix liberty, guys. If I had not showed up in that courtroom, that it would have come with a gun and a billy club and dragged me in there and thrown me in a cell. When they want you in our justice system, they will take you. Look no further than Schaefer Cox, who did nothing but be a patriot and is sitting behind bars for what, 27 years? Kent Hovind, who was a pastor who did nothing. They trumped up charges against him, made up nonsense. He just actually got out after 10 years in prison. Okay, we have to fix it at the root. And so the problem with the driver's license issue is that a lot of people don't get it. They don't get their head around it. And the truth is, we're too far gone for that. Like, when we rebuild, when we fix, let's address that. But let's take on the bigger issues today, because all you do is basically you're making it so they can arrest you whenever they want. And don't think they won't. Don't think the magic words or this or that. Yes, standing up to them, being assertive, all those things help. And I talk about this a lot. But if in their laws you're breaking the law and they want to arrest you, they want to get you off the streets, they will. It's that simple. Okay. Okay, I'm looking at comments now. Here's another one. This is a practical question. Do you believe that change can occur without bloodshed in America, and is there a peaceful way out of this? Bloody revolution is the last resort of good men. And I've seen generally that the people saying, let's start this revolution, are not the ones on the front lines. When we were at Bundy Ranch a year and a half ago on that Saturday, in May, or was it March? No, I think it was May. People don't understand. This wasn't about cows and grazing fees. It was about bureaucratic terrorists. It was about tyranny. It was about stopping another Waco or Ruby Ridge. And a lot of patriots stood up and put their lives on the line that day. But we would not have won. We didn't win by force of arms. We won because God intervened in spite of us. That doesn't negate from the bravery. But when there's a Black Hawk helicopter sitting at the airport, they could have destroyed us in about 30 seconds. And you wouldn't have shot the helicopter down with your AR-15. We would have been hosed. And we really thought we were going to die that day. And you need to understand that. I mean, you watch the YouTube video, it's like, yay, the Patriots stood the feds down. And in answer to the question, can we restore this without bloodshed? Not without divine intervention. I mean, I'm back to my appeal to heaven stage, because I'm not going to be out there to start bloodshed. I'm not looking to start a revolution. Here's the thing. Bloodshed won't restore it either. Not if we don't have principle. Not if we don't have a foundation of unity and liberty. Not if we don't have repentance and values. It won't do it. It won't work. If we have a revolution, I really think that if we had a bloody revolution right now, it would just be another French Revolution. Most revolutions, remember this very carefully, most revolutions don't restore liberty. They just bring in new tyranny. This is a historical fact. The American Revolution was a rare exception to this. And I firmly believe that it's because we had a foundation of liberty, loving your neighbor as yourself, and God consciousness. Doesn't mean all the framers were on the same page in terms of God. It doesn't mean that. But there was a consciousness. There was a standard, and you have to have that. Okay, what else? What do you think about Oath Keepers? Oath Keepers is another organization out there fighting for liberty. Do I agree with everything? No. But, I know Stuart Rhodes, the president and founder of Oath Keepers. And, he was at the Bundy Ranch. He's at a lot of places. You see them putting their resources behind a lot of things. So the thing is, we get irritated. Sometimes somebody will do something we don't like or this or that, but we can't look at it that way. There's too few of us. We need to unite in every area possible. And as long as people aren't compromising and selling out liberty, as long as they're standing the line for true liberty, then let's work together. Now, I'm looking at questions because let's see. I want to say something. And then I'm going to take a couple more questions. Violence doesn't fix tyranny. Now, understand my perspective. I stand the line at the Bundy Ranch. I stand the line in Olympia when we had the largest felony civil disobedience that me and others organized last December. We made history there. But the goal wasn't to start violence, it was to prevent it. If you watch my cross-examination during my trial, and the prosecutor was mad at me because I would redirect his questions and I would answer them in the way that was relevant, not in the way that he wanted to make me look bad. Now, I still lost because we have a jury of slaves sitting over there eating the state's donuts and in the state's buildings and that want to go home. And they do what the prosecution says at the end of the day because the judge is just a lackey for the prosecution. They're all working together. But here's the thing. I said the best way I found, because they was trying to use against me the idea of that I was gathering people, that I said, let's get together at the courthouse and stand up. And so they were actually, don't think this won't happen. They were taking my Facebook comments, you guys, and using them against me in the courtroom. It's not pretend. This is how they do it. And the jurors will be over there like, man, this guy sounds like a radical. And so I said, I found that the best way to prevent violence is to have multitudes of people standing. And let me extend that a little further. Multitudes of people standing armed. Understand that when we had 3,000 people at the Capitol in Olympia, they wanted us to get a permit. They wanted me to play their game. I said, no, we're not doing any of that. We're showing up there. We're showing up armed, tough, deal with it. And so I had no permit even to be at the Capitol. And so I was very heavy that week. I was praying a lot because I'm thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? I mean, I put all this together and all these people are coming in. It totally exploded and went viral. And so we got thousands of people coming to the Capitol. And I think, what if they start arresting us? Because we were there. We weren't there protesting. We were there committing a felony under Washington state law by exchanging guns and things like that. I mean, they made it a crime to so much as hand my shotgun to a friend. So we were there in defiance of tyranny. And the state patrol was all over the place. I mean, we were committing felonies in front of the state patrol. And I thought, well, what if this goes wrong? I don't really want to be the guy. I don't want to be the guy that starts the next American Revolution. We need a revolution of hearts. And for a month leading up to that, myself and the team, we emphasized principle. You're not going to fix liberty by your anger and your hatred. As bad as tyrants are, the idea of killing them without due process is just as much tyranny as what they're putting on us. You can't say, let's just go start punishing people. Let's not give people due process. Let's string them up. That's not liberty. That's a lynch mob. And I see a lot of that among the patriots of this kind of one-sided liberty. They want liberty, but they're going to do whatever they want. And that will destroy us. That's a French Revolution. And if we have that attitude, it absolutely will destroy us. Now, what happened was quite the contrary at that event. It was breathtaking. I mean, it was absolutely unreal. We had 3,000 people. We got there. Me and the others, like the Bosworth team and stuff, had to get there early. And so we're setting up and we're getting audio set up, and the state patrol was giving us a little trouble and nothing terrible, but it was a little tense. And they let us in and we started setting up, and we didn't know what was going to happen. There wasn't a lot of people. And all of a sudden I'm standing there and we're setting up gear and it's foggy. I mean, it's December in Olympia. All right. So it's cold, it's foggy, it's damp, and people just start emerging out of the fog. I mean, they're carrying flags, they're carrying guns, they're carrying their kids. And we had 3,000 people on that muddy green outside the Capitol building. You've never seen anything like it in your entire life. And when it was over, we emphasized principle. We said, hey, we're never going to throw the first punch. We're not here to pick a fight. We're here for liberty. We're here to defy tyranny, period. Don't come if you want to pick a fight. We want no part with that. Bloodshed is not the goal. It's the last resort. And so we did it. No one was arrested. No problems. When that place cleared out, must have been around 3 o'clock or something, and we were tearing down. I'm not kidding you. We're talking about an event of 3,000 people. There was not a piece of litter on the ground. I'm serious. I didn't pick up one piece of garbage. It was unbelievable. And so when you set a standard of principle and you stand by that and you're just and equal for all, that's liberty. Now, if they had come in and started shooting us, I mean, yeah, you have a right to self-defense. And so we didn't know what was going to happen. You know, they didn't know, I mean, if there was going to be snipers trying to take out the speakers. I mean, who knows? The government is so psychotic. But historically, and what I've found is that when you stand for liberty, when you stand as one, and especially when you stand armed, the government tends to back down without violence. There's safety in numbers. Okay. Now, I'm looking over questions again. So if I missed your question, paste it right back in there now, because I am looking for a question. People keep talking about marijuana. Let me address that real quick, because I've seen various questions, okay? Lest we just fight all day about marijuana. Marijuana is not liberty, and it's not the Gadsden flag. I know I might be offending some libertarians right now, but here's the thing. Look, I'm an herbalist. I mean, I have a huge collection of natural medicine. I study it. It tends to work better than so-called modern medicine. I mean, did you know that cayenne pepper will stop hemorrhaging? Literally, you take a couple teaspoons, drink it down. It will stop internal or external hemorrhaging. Like we're talking about gunshot wounds here. Okay? So, marijuana has some legitimate medical purposes. It's true. But most of the people I see promoting marijuana just want to get high. Now, I don't support that. That doesn't mean it should be criminalized. And so here's the thing with marijuana. The government has no authority to regulate a plant. It's foolishness. They're just using it as another way to abuse you. They don't care about protecting people. Our government doesn't care about preserving justice. The war on drugs is a sham, just like our prisons and just like our whole justice system is. That doesn't mean that I say, well, marijuana is liberty and let's all smoke it. Look, we're trying to restore liberty, guys. We need our mental faculties about us as much as possible. Now, as a Christian, I don't believe in getting drunk. I don't want to be drunken. I don't want to be high. But on a practical sense, America's crumbling. We're in a battle right now. You don't go on the battlefield drunk and high. It's foolishness. And so, well, I might support your right to do that if you want. It's true, the government the government has no authority, legal or moral, really, to be involved in it. But don't get hung up on weed. I mean, let's fix liberty. Let's not fight so we can get high. Let's fight in defense of our neighbors, in defense of the innocent and the weak. Look out for the other guy instead of always looking out for ourselves. Okay, I'm looking. Okay, here's one I get a lot in various forms. Good chat room stuff, and I can't follow everything because I'm trying to engage with you guys over here. And you know what I'm going to do? How genius is this? I have 2 screens here in the studio. So, because I do, you know, this is my photography editing, this is my video production. SeimStudios.com if you want to learn more about what I do. If you're a photographer, you should check out what I do. Anyways. Oh, for heaven's sake. There we go. Okay. Looking at the questions here. I'm getting organized. What would you recommend to a person? I'm sorry, I forgot who posted this. What would you recommend to a person who lives in a small town and spreading the message of freedom and liberty? Look, I get a lot of people, especially young people, and it's really encouraging. You know, I get 14, 15, 16, I mean, any age, but the young people especially, because our public indoctrination system has destroyed our country because people have tolerated it. The pastors have tolerated it. The people of faith have tolerated it. And they've said, hey, let's send our kids to government and have them be brainwashed. And so it really encourages me when people want to do something. There's not a simple solution. The best thing to do is start big conversations. This is from what I know. This is what I have seen work. Okay, there's going to be more to it than this, but we need to start big conversations, and we need to be uncompromising. America is a people of faith and peace and liberty. That's what we need to be. That's what we were founded on. And the main thing is you have to be uncompromising for liberty. You have to love your neighbor as yourself. And whatever way you can do that, whether it's in your local community, whether it's in videos on the internet, whether it's on Facebook, spread that message. Share the message. You know, sharing videos and things like that help. Understand that that's not enough. Okay, just sharing stuff isn't enough. But we need to be doing that. If you see a video, even if you don't have, I know there's not time for everything in a day, but share it. You need to get your friends that are asleep. And a lot of them are good people, but America's asleep. People just don't want to have to deal with it. They want to go on with their lives, and they do not want to have to deal with the fact that they've failed their children, that they've failed liberty. You have to start calling it out. And I'm talking about your family. I'm talking about your friends. Quit being silent for their sake. Start putting it in their face. Do it with principled, truth and love. But we've got to start standing up for that. Now, I am moderating here. We're blocking the trolls here, guys. The chat room is too busy for foolishness. And so don't even go there. So we've covered marijuana. We've covered liberty. And most of the stuff we're talking about has already been on my blogs. What about gay rights? Brandon keeps saying. There are no gay rights, guys. There's human rights. No one has special rights over another, period. Now, there's an article about this on my blog, too. And I don't care. I'm not here to please you. I'm here to please him. I'm here to stand for liberty, okay? There is no gay rights. There's no woman's rights. There's no big person's or little person's rights. All of our rights are equal. There's human rights. So you want to talk about marriage? People celebrate the Supreme Court decision on gay marriage. Our country is now flying under the flag of homosexuality. What? The government has no right to define marriage. What you're saying is, hey, I want the right to do something that I want. It's not equal rights because I can't marry a man. Well, gee, I can't either. So that's actually pretty equal rights, because marriage is not an institution of the state, you guys. Marriage is an institution of the church. So you want to get back to the basics. The state shouldn't even be issuing marriage licenses. They should be in no way involved in that. But it's not about gay rights. It's not about special privileges for one person. It's about equal rights. I support a homosexual man's liberty as much as the next, exactly the same. And I'll stand and defend that liberty. I will also say what you're doing, sin. Why? Because God says, because it's destructive. But I'm still going to stand by their liberty. It doesn't mean I'm going to go out waving their banner on the battlefield. I want my rainbow back. All right? But we've got to quit getting distracted. Liberty is just and equal, always. Michael says, what do you think about free college education? Would it help the country? Nothing's free, guys. The government, when something's free from government, it means they're stealing from other people to give it to you. We have to get out of this mindset of what's the government giving me. All the entitlements in the federal government are totally illegal. Most of the ones on the state level are illegal. The problem with our country is not immigration per se. The reason our borders aren't being protected is because the government doesn't want them to be protected. They're allowing people to come in so that they can cheat and get voters and get money and manipulate. If you go back to April 7th, 1912, Ellis Island, New York, 10,000 people immigrated in one day. You could just come and immigrate. It wasn't like a 20-year wait. It didn't cost you $30,000. You just came here. But guess what? There was no entitlements. So don't get me wrong. I believe our borders should be secure. But at the same time, you have to have a border that is streamlined, that's just. It's not about extorting and taking advantage of people. There's nothing wrong with people pouring into our country. That's what America was founded on, providing there's accountability, providing they're not taking freebies, providing they're not milking the system dry. The reason immigration became this whole quotas and all this stuff was because government wanted to buy votes by giving away freebies. Before the freebies were there, it was never a problem because people that immigrated, they came here and they produced. They became part of the American dream. They didn't give them a dime when they came in. I'm trying to ban the trolls, guys. I'm kind of multitasking here. So I'm keeping an eye on it. And the trolls are certainly coming in, and I am actively trying to end that. Okay. Now I'm looking for another question. This is not a place just for chit chat. Let's it is a place for chit chat, but let's keep it on topic. Let's keep it on liberty. And I'm just looking here, trying to get the it to work. Planned Parenthood was pretty much covered in abortion. They're an organization of butchers. They're murderers in mass. They're committing genocide. Not only should they not be funded, they should be treated as murderers because that's what they are. They have nothing to do with women's rights. They kill women by the millions. They have nothing to do with protecting anyone's health. It's a total sham. Now, let's see here. We're going to be wrapping up soon. At this point, the trolls are getting kind of out of control. So I'm just looking here. Okay, you know what I'm going to do here, guys? If you know me, okay, because I don't want to just put anyone in. If you know me, comment. I'm going to make you a moderator. And if you right-click on the trolls, you can block them. Okay, so let's get a technique to clean this up. And so if we know each other, if we're friends on Facebook, if I'm familiar with you, just comment in there, and I'm going to make some moderators here. If we can, and just, you know, I mean, people can have opinions. Don't get me wrong. Don't block anybody you don't like. Be fair in the moderation. But it's just getting ridiculous because the haters of liberty that have nothing to do but try and get attention are coming out in force. All right. But if I don't know you, Ben says trolling is free speech. You know what? Free speech is a restriction on government. You don't get to come into my house and just curse me out endlessly and say whatever you want. Now, I tend to be patient. People always say this to me on my page, like, oh, you're not for free speech. You don't let me troll your page. Well, that's foolishness. My page is not the government. My page is not the one that the First Amendment was written for. My house, my living room is not the one that the First Amendment is written for. And yeah, sorry, guys, I'm not going to make you troll. And I mean, I'm not going to make you a moderator unless I see your name. I mean, these vague YouTube names, I don't know who you are or anything like that. We can't do it because I don't know if you're actually a troll. And we may actually have to end the video. This was an experimental test, and it makes it really hard to manage it. But I am watching the thing. I can't. Demo Jones says, "What about white supremacy? What about it?" The issue with our country is not race, you guys. The issue with our country is liberty. Does racism exist? Yeah. And don't, it's not liberty. Don't be silent in the face of it. Just like any other bully you would stand up to. But the problem is not race. Stop the division. Stop getting distracted. Get your eye on the ball. And that's liberty. That's where we need to go. Am I worried about Jade Helm? You know, the government is tyrannical. If it came unglued tomorrow, I would not be shocked. And you should have this mindset. You know, are you prepared for the government to come unglued tomorrow? Are you prepared for them to start going door to door? What are you going to do? How are you going to stand on principle? How are you going to help your neighbor? So I don't sit around worrying about Jade Helm. I know our government's coming unglued. That's all there is to it. There's no other way around it. But we have to stand up for what's right. I've already covered, people keep saying, what about Trump? What about him? Again, what about Trump? I addressed Trump when I talked about the presidential candidates. I think Trump's kind of playing the game to get attention, and I think he's kind of fun to watch. But what has Trump done for liberty? Prove it. Here's a guy that has more money than almost anybody in the country, and yet he gives money to all the tyrants. He gives money to whoever will help him. So great, he's a capitalist. Well, I support capitalism, fine. But this guy's saying he wants to stand up for us. Well, has he been out there standing up for us? Start asking yourselves questions. Quit just looking at what they say on ads and TV and politics and debates when they're being politicians. You know, is Trump entertaining? Yes. Do I like it that he's sticking it to the establishment? Yes. Maybe Trump will use his money to destroy the GOP. Destroying the Republican Party would be phenomenal for America because they're the enemies of liberty. Just like the Democrats, the parties are destroying America. It's always this division. So don't think, you know, because they're Republican, they're good. You know, maybe we'll get a third party out of this. Maybe something else will happen. Maybe we'll finally, you know, Trump might actually have the money to put the Republican Party down. But all the sidelines, they don't matter. Look at what people are actually doing. And really getting fired up on the presidential race. Nobody that's going to get elected to president is going to fix America, you guys. You might as well quit worrying about it. You know, when the election comes, yeah, support somebody who's good. If they're standing on principle, support them. But it's highly unlikely that we can get anybody in the presidential seat that will fix America. It's too far gone. Zach, the Federal Reserve should be audited, but really it should be ended. Just like the IRS. I mean, our monetary system's broken, our justice system's broken. You can always go to these sidelines. You have to start at the foundation. We have to start. You want to know where it starts? It starts with life. You have to start defending life. I mean abortion. I mean your neighbor. I mean people being abused and thrown into prisons. People have to start standing up. Voting matters. Standing up matters. But you can't just say, well, I'm going to vote. I did my duty. That's going to fix it. Because it's not. We're a republic. We're a government by the consent of the governed. The people have consented to become slaves. We have to unconsent. And we have to do that by standing up for what's right. I'm just looking. I'm going to wrap it up here in a couple minutes. This was a good session. I'm going to do some research on dealing with the trolls a little bit better. What we need is more moderators in there so that I can focus here because it's been a little bit of a distracting session. But we've still taken some good questions. I think this has been fun. And if people want to, we'll do it again. But the trolls, I mean, I think they're actually like making new accounts just to troll after they get banned, you know? So I'm looking for simple questions about liberty, guys. I'm really not here to, you know, to debate about all the ins and outs. I'm here to talk about restoring liberty. And so how I feel about everything is not really that relevant. What's relevant is what's law. Law is life, liberty, and property. What are we doing to protect that? And I already addressed the presidential thing earlier. So if you came in late, go back in toward the beginning of the video. Who's my favorite liberty hero? There's a question. My favorite liberty hero. Did the stream just freeze? It might have just frozen. There we go. Okay. Who's my favorite Liberty Hero. Somebody ban this Up the Gamer guy. I mean, come on. Let's. Did I make any? I think I made a couple moderators. Oh dear. Let me see here. Hang on. Is my mic muted? It doesn't say it's muted. Hang on. No. Can you guys hear me? Just a couple of yeses or nos. We may have to end this. I can't even tell. The system seems to be freezing up. YouTube's not perfect, you know. Okay, they can hear me. I can't hear you. Yes. Yeah, everybody can hear. So if you can't hear, refresh the page because the mic is on. This chat room is chaos. This chat room looks a lot like our country does, guys. So now you kind of know how I feel like when I'm trying to get out there and get something done. All right. So overall, this went pretty well. The chat room is a little bit of chaos. The problem is there's too many people just debating things in the chat room, and it turns to chaos because I can't even see the questions. Somebody says I should become an anarchist. No, anarchism is the opposite of liberty. Anarchy is what we have now. Anarchy is when you have people saying, I get to make up the law as I go. I get to do whatever I want. Look up the word. The anarchists get mad at me for this. You're not an anarchist because you want justice. If you want justice and liberty, you're the opposite of an anarchist. Our government, our police, they're anarchists. They think they can make up the law as they go. They think they can do whatever they want. That's anarchy. And I will say it to their face. I'll look at the cops and say, you're an anarchist. And they're so shocked. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you think you can make up the law as you go along. You think whatever your boss tells you is now law and we have to obey it. That's anarchy. That's not law. That's not justice. That's anarchy. Now, who's my liberty hero? Is Jesus. Jesus stood up for the weak. He stood up for the innocent. He not only spilled his blood for my life, for my soul rather, and for yours, but he was an activist. He would constantly stand up for what was right, even though it wasn't popular. So there's my liberty hero. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of cop trolls in here. I think with that, we're going to wrap up. I don't want to go on all night. If you like this, send me a message. We'll look at doing it again. We'll experiment with different. And if I can get access to do this on Facebook, we might try it there because it's a little harder to troll on Facebook because it's harder to set up a fake account and it's usually people's real name. So they actually have to be accountable for what they say instead of all these fools in here shooting off their mouths that have no accountability. Don't act like a fool. Stand up for liberty. Okay. It's been about an hour. I'm going to end this for tonight. If people want to, I might consider doing another one of these next week, experiment with making it go a little smoother. And that way you got some time maybe to think about some questions. We'll see how it goes. I have a lot to do. I want to go home tonight. And you can find me over at callmegav.com. All the latest videos. And go to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed here down below. Also subscribe to my newsletter, and you can see all of this stuff on my website. And most of the videos actually have an overlay for the links on this. Somebody says, please don't stop. But honestly, there's really not many questions coming in right now. There's mostly people just complaining about trolls. And I get that, but it doesn't help the conversation. And the best conversations are when you end wanting more, quite honestly. If I go on for hours and hours, it's just going to be lame. And I'm going to start losing. I can only stay on top of the game for so long. And then I have to go home and see my kids. So here's the bottom line. Start standing up for everyone's liberty. Start spreading the message. Quit getting distracted by the sidelines. Quit getting distracted by nonsense, by what the news media is saying, by both ends against the middle. Quit getting distracted because you hate that guy over there because he doesn't do it your way. If people are standing for liberty, and by that I mean life, I mean liberty, I mean property. I mean, you can't support abortion and be for liberty. I mean, you have to stand up for everyone's liberty. You have to get back to principle and to the foundations. Start doing that. Do it in any way you can. Do it on Facebook. Do it with your family. Do it with your friends. Quit playing the game of, well, we don't talk religion and politics in our house. Do it to your grandma. Do it to your aunt. Absolutely pummel this world with truth. If you're a Christian, get in prayer, get in the Word. But wherever you stand, if you're going to stand for liberty, you have to choose a side. There's two sides. You're either for liberty or you're not for liberty. And understand this. If you're opposing people's liberty, you're on that side over there. You're the enemy of liberty. There's only two sides. So stand up for liberty. Do it boldly. Do it principally. Assert yourself. Stop being cowards. We have a nation of eunuchs. It's time for the men to start acting like men. It's time for everybody to start uniting in liberty and doing what's right. And before somebody goes off on me, yes, the women stand for liberty too. But our men especially are just total cowards in this nation. They're more concerned about football and beer and Cheetos than standing up for their children's liberty. So we need to get back to that. Start calling out your friends. Doesn't mean you have to be nasty. Doesn't mean you always have to pull a video camera out on somebody. But if you engage with government, if you engage police, always do a video camera. I get messages from people all the time. I got arrested, this and that. Do you have is there a video? No. Well, there you go. You should never leave home. You know, yes, I believe in the Second Amendment, but I carry a video camera more than I carry a gun because it is my number one protection in the civil sense. God's my number one protection. But then there's the camera because I don't want to have to use the gun. And so use that to get the message out. That's my whole thing, is trying to get us to stop being distracted and stop dividing, to get our eye on the ball and start standing for liberty. Okay, everybody, I'm going to go. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm dizzy from watching this laggy YouTube stream filled with trolls. And thank you for being here. We did have some really good questions, though, and some really good stuff out there. I know there's a lot of us coming from different perspectives, from different angles, from different backgrounds, but let's unite where we can on liberty. If we're for liberty, let's work together and try and restore that. America's going to come unglued, guys. America's coming apart, and it's going to continue to do so because we failed to stand for truth. We failed to stand with morals, to stand with God. We failed everything in liberty. The whole point, the whole great experiment, we failed because we got lazy and we got apathetic and we got selfish. So get back to that foundation of law. Start loving your neighbor as yourself. And we'll do this again, I'm sure. Had about 100 live viewers. That's pretty cool. And we'll try and tighten it up in the future, make it a little more organized, and figure out the best way to do it. I need somebody here in the studio watching the chat, sending me the messages. All right, God bless. Take care. Stand for liberty. We will see you all later. I'm going to find out how to end this so you don't have to look at my mug all night. callmegav.com. And if you want to see my photography, it's Seim, S-E-I-M studios.com is all my photo websites. And that's how I actually pay the bills. So I should be over there working right now, but instead I'm here. All right, you guys. Take care.